The fog rolled in thick and heavy, cloaking the coastal town of Blackwick in a suffocating shroud. Clara Mason's windshield wipers slapped rhythmically against the rain, barely clearing the glass enough for her to see the narrow road ahead. Her old sedan rattled over the uneven pavement, the headlights slicing through the mist like weak blades. She hadn't planned to end up here, in a nowhere town on the edge of Maine, but her GPS had died an hour ago, and her phone had no signal. The road signs, faded and warped by years of salty air, pointed her toward Blackwick, and with her gas tank hovering near empty, she had no choice but to keep going. It was supposed to be a quick getaway, a weekend to clear her head after the breakup. Clara, a 29-year-old graphic designer from Boston, had packed a bag, thrown it in the trunk, and driven north without a plan. She wanted solitude, not this, an eerie, abandoned stretch of coastline where the only sounds were the crashing waves and the howl of the wind. The town appeared out of the fog like a ghost, a cluster of weathered buildings, their windows dark, their paint peeling. A single flickering street lamp illuminated a sign that read, "Welcome to Blackwick, Est, 1823. Clara pulled into the parking lot of a small diner, its neon sign buzzing faintly. The lot was empty except for a rusted pickup truck parked crookedly near the entrance. She sat in her car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, her breath fogging the cold air inside. Something about this place felt wrong, but she was exhausted, and the idea of a hot coffee and a moment to think was too tempting to resist. The diner's bell jingled as she pushed open the door. The air inside smelled of stale grease and burnt coffee. A lone waitress, her face lined with age and weariness, looked up from behind the counter. Her name tag read, Doris. "Evening," Doris said, her voice gravelly. "You lost?" Clara forced a smile. "Something like that. My GPS died, and I'm low on gas. Just need a coffee and directions to the nearest station." Doris nodded, her eyes flicking toward the window. "Gas stations closed this time of night. Only one in town, and Old Man Carter don't open till morning. You can try the inn up the road, though. They might have a room." Clara glanced at her watch. 10:47 p.m. The idea of spending the night in Blackwick made her stomach twist, but she didn't have much choice. "How far's the inn?" "Half a mile north by the Lighthouse. Can't miss it." Doris poured a cup of coffee and slid it across the counter. "On the house. You look like you need it." Clara thanked her and sipped the coffee, bitter and lukewarm. The diner was eerily quiet, the only sound the faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. She noticed a corkboard on the wall, covered in faded flyers and notices. One caught her eye, a missing person poster, yellowed with age, featuring a grainy photo of a young woman with dark hair and a shy smiles. Missing, Emily Harper, age 24. Last seen near Blackwick Lighthouse, August 14th, 2003. "Lot of folks go missing around here?" Clara asked, trying to keep her tone light. Doris's face tightened. "Some. Coastal towns like this, people come and go. Storms take them, or they just leave." She turned away, busying herself with wiping down the counter. Clara finished her coffee and left a few dollars on the counter, despite Doris's insistence. The fog had thickened when she stepped outside, the street lamp now just a faint glow. She drove slowly, following Doris's directions, until the inn came into view, a squat two-story building with a sagging roof and a sign that read, Blackwick Inn. Next to it loomed the lighthouse, its silhouette barely visible through the fog. The beacon wasn't lit, which struck Clara as odd. Weren't lighthouses supposed to guide ships? Inside the inn, The air was musty, the lobby dimly lit by a single lamp. An elderly man sat behind the check-in desk, his glasses perched on the end of his nose as he scribbled in a ledger. He looked up as Clara approached, his eyes sharp and unsettling. "Need a room?" he asked, his voice low and raspy. "Yes, just for the night," Clara said. "I'm passing through." He slid a key across the desk. "Room 12, second floor, breakfast at 7, if you're up for it." He paused, studying her. "You here alone?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Clara nodded, her throat tight. "Yeah, just me." The man, his name tag read Harold, grunted and went back to his ledger. Clara took the key and hurried up the creaking stairs to room 12. The room was small, with a lumpy bed, a chipped dresser, and a single window overlooking the lighthouse. She locked the door behind her and checked it twice, her heart pounding for reasons she couldn't quite name. Exhausted, Clara collapsed onto the bed without undressing. The fog pressed against the window, and the distant crash of waves was the only sound. She closed her eyes, willing herself to sleep. But a faint noise broke through the silence. A low, rhythmic thumping, like footsteps on the floor below. She sat up, listening. The sound stopped, then started again, closer this time. It wasn't footsteps, she realized. It was something heavier, dragging across the floor. Clara held her breath, her eyes fixed on the door. The thumping stopped, replaced by a soft scratching sound, like nails on wood. It was coming from the hallway. She crept to the door and pressed her ear against it, her pulse racing. The scratching grew louder, then stopped abruptly. Silence. She waited, frozen, for what felt like an eternity. When no further sounds came, she exhaled shakily and returned to the bed. It was just an old building, she told herself. Old pipes, old floors, old everything. But as she lay down, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, had been standing just outside her door. The next morning, Clara woke to the sound of rain pelting the window. The fog had lifted slightly, revealing the lighthouse in stark detail. It was an imposing structure, its white paint chipped and streaked with rust, its lantern room dark and lifeless. She dressed quickly and headed downstairs, hoping to grab breakfast and get out of Blackwick as soon as possible. Harold was at the desk again, reading a newspaper. He barely acknowledged her as she passed. The dining room was empty, except for a middle-aged couple at a corner table, their heads bent low in conversation. Clara grabbed a plate of soggy toast and weak coffee, then sat near the window, her eyes drawn to the lighthouse. "You a tourist?" a voice asked. Clara turned to see the woman from the couple, her face pale and lined with worry. "Not many come to Blackwick this time of year." "Just passing through," Clara said. "Got lost last night." The woman nodded, her eyes flicking toward the lighthouse. "Best keep moving then. This town, it's not right." Her husband shot her a sharp look. "Mary, don't start." Mary ignored him. "You see the lighthouse? They say it's cursed. No keepers lasted more than a year since the 80s. People go up there and don't come back." Clara's skin prickled. "Like Emily Harper?" Mary's face went white. "You know about Emily?" "Saw a poster in the diner," Clara said. "What happened to her?" Mary leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "She was a journalist, came to write about the lighthouse. Folks warned her to stay away, but she didn't listen. Went up one night, and no one saw her again. They found her car parked at the base, but nothing else. No body, no nothing." Her husband stood abruptly. "That's enough, Mary. Let's go." Mary hesitated, then followed him out, leaving Clara alone with her thoughts. She finished her breakfast and decided to check out the lighthouse herself. It was probably just small-town superstition, But something about Mary's story gnawed at her. She needed to see it, to prove to herself there was nothing to fear. The rain had slowed to a drizzle as Clara walked the short distance to the lighthouse. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and decay. The lighthouse door was ajar, its hinges rusted and groaning as she pushed it open. Inside, the air was cold and damp, the walls streaked with mold. A spiral staircase wound upward, disappearing into the darkness. "Hello?" Clara called, her voice echoing. No response. She pulled out her phone, using its flashlight to illuminate the stairs. The beam caught strange markings on the walls, scratches deep and erratic, like someone had clawed at the stone. Her stomach churned, but she forced herself to climb. The stairs seemed endless, each step creaking under her weight. The higher she went, the colder it got, the air thick with an oppressive weight. At the top, she found the lantern room, its massive lens cracked and coated in dust. The view was breathtaking, endless ocean stretching to the horizon. But something felt off. The room was too quiet, too still, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Then she saw it. A small leather-bound notebook tucked into a corner, half hidden by a pile of rusted tools. Clara picked it up, her fingers trembling as she opened it. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting, the ink smudged in places as if written in a hurry. The first entry was dated August 12, 2003. "They're watching me. I see them in the fog, shadows that move when I'm not looking. The townsfolk won't talk, but I know they know something. The lighthouse is alive. It's calling me." Clara's heart pounded. The handwriting was unmistakably feminine. Emily Harper. She flipped through the pages, each entry more desperate than the last. August 13th. "The noises started last night, scratching, thumping, like something's trapped in the walls. I tried to leave, but my car won't start. The fog is too thick to walk. I'm scared." August 14th. "It's not human. It's in the lighthouse with me. I can feel it watching. I tried to run, but the door won't open. God, please, someone help me." The final page was a single sentence, scrawled in jagged letters. "It's coming for me." Clara dropped the notebook, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The air in the lantern room grew colder, the shadows lengthening despite the daylight outside. She turned to leave, but the door to the staircase was closed. She hadn't shut it. Her hands shook as she grabbed the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged through her. She pounded on the door, shouting for help, but her voice was swallowed by the thick walls. The scratching sound started again, slow and deliberate, coming from below. It grew louder, closer, until it was right outside the door. Clara backed away, her eyes darting around the room for something, anything, to defend herself with. The door rattled violently, then went still. Silence. Clara's legs gave out, and she sank to the floor, clutching her phone. No signal, no way to call for help. The scratching resumed, now from the walls, circling her. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "It's not real. It's not real." But it was real. The air grew heavy, pressing down on her chest. The shadows in the room seemed to pulse, coalescing into a shape. Tall, humanoid, but wrong, its limbs too long, its face a featureless void. Clara screamed, scrambling backward until her back hit the wall. The thing moved toward her, its movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet on broken strings. She fumbled for the notebook, clutching it like a lifeline. "What do you want?" she screamed. The thing paused, its head tilting as if studying her. Then, in a voice that wasn't a voice, but a rasp of wind and bone. It spoke. "Stay." Clara's vision blurred with tears. She threw the notebook at the thing, and it dissolved into shadow, the room falling silent once more. The door clicked open, and she ran, stumbling down the stairs, not stopping until she was outside, gasping in the rain-soaked air. She didn't look back, didn't stop to grab her bag from the inn. She got in her car and drove, the lighthouse shrinking in her rearview mirror. She didn't stop until she reached a gas station an hour away, her hands still shaking as she filled the tank. The attendant, a bored teenager, noticed her distress, but said nothing. Clara didn't care. She just wanted to leave Blackwick behind forever. But as she drove, the fog rolled in again, thicker than before. Her headlights caught a figure standing in the road, a woman, her dark hair plastered to her face, her eyes wide with terror. Clara slammed on the brakes, her heart in her throat. The woman was gone. In her place was a single waterlogged notebook, lying open on the pavement. Clara didn't stop to pick it up. She floored the gas, the car lurching forward, and didn't look back. When she finally reached Boston, she locked herself in her apartment. The notebook's words burned into her mind. She didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every creak of the floor, every shadow in the corner, made her jump. She told herself it was over, that she'd escaped. But late at night, when the city was quiet, she heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from the walls.